And the goal is really a pincher strategy. It's a pincher strategy to get law-abiding Americans, constitutionalists, capitalists, Christians, churches, and those who are in government that want to carry out the functions of government, law and order, and a pincher. Get them caught between the government officials that have infiltrated, that are leaking information, judges that are giving cover, refusing to sign arrest warrants, maybe people who have even infiltrated, as we're hearing now out of Minnesota, maybe even infiltrated into the police departments and are feeding information about movements of federal agents. Not to mention, you got all these secret encrypted signal apps. We talked about it that extensively last night on Brandon House Live. I had Millie Weaver on. And we're now finding out, according to some reports, you may actually have elected officials that are involved in some of these signal apps that are helping to coordinate tracking, obstruction, and swarming police and government, federal government agents like ICE. That would be your pressure from above, giving them political cover and inside information, people from inside the government. Pressure from above and then pressure from below at the street level. It's an old communist tactic. And the goal is to get President Trump in a situation where no matter what he does, he loses. If he comes down, as he has been, he looks authoritarian, too hard, too harsh, too much, too fast, not reasonable. Sean Hannity, apparently, according to one report's even come out now saying he thinks this is not going well and it needs to stop. There needs to be we need to find another way to do this. Maybe give them money and offer them money to go home. But we shouldn't be raiding Home Depot and other places and people that are involved in doing work. Well, people can agree or disagree. The point is, this has divided MAGA. Kristi Noem apparently wanted to have a meeting last night with the president in the Oval Office, and some say she's on thin ice, according to some reports. Many MAGA people are upset with her, saying it's illegal to show up at a protest armed, or many are saying, well, I don't know what you mean by protest, but it's a First Amendment right to go out and state your beliefs, even if you don't agree with what the person is saying. And if they have the right to carry an arm and be armed, then again, that's a Second Amendment issue. So a lot of the MAGA world is not happy at all with how this is being framed by people like Kristi Noem. This is even another issue, dividing MAGA again. And that's the objective. To get President Trump in a situation and his administration, whether they walked into this or not, we can ask Alex Newman about that in a minute. But the goal is to have people questioning the tactics of the administration and even getting President Trump's own supporters questioning him. And then if you get him to back down, as now he's reportedly pulling ICE out and pulled out the director of ICE, who I think, again, from a casting standpoint, he was like someone right out of Casting Central Casting that, had the haircut, the uniform, the long coat. It looked like from another time and era, and that's not something you want to play into. And then his antics on the street and his sarcasm and swagger, it was all way too much, I thought. It wasn't helping the cause. It didn't come off as serious and stately. And so now that they're backing down, well, President Trump appears that he's given in to the left, which only emboldens the left. You see, President Trump really, they've got him in a position, at least they're trying to, where he can't win either way. If he goes out with his policy that the American people, many of them in big numbers, and even some Democrats and independents, polls are showing, are in favor of getting the illegal aliens out of the country. If he goes with that, well, they find a way to make it look too much, too hard, too harsh, too extreme. And maybe it has been done in a way that's been, well, not quite meant for the cameras. But if he then backs down, he appears as though he is weak. He's now accused of empowering the left. And I'm now seeing people on social media that are so frustrated. They're saying, I voted for this guy. I've lost family and friends over this guy. And now he he caves to Tim Walz. There are people in his own movement that aren't happy with him on either side of this debate. This is the success of the left. They're very well organized. I have shown you a document for years, unrestricted warfare document or unconventional warfare, warfare. And I've shown you, I think it's from the 1960s and it's by our own military. And it's been revised several times. And it's a pyramid. And of course, the base of the pyramid is the widest. And as it goes up, it gets more and more narrow and concentrated. And it is the steps for revolution, which includes making people not trust government, local government, state government, federal government, the police, the military. And now, of course, they have the media on their side. They have years, decades now of education. So these are well refined techniques that are used by the Marxists for revolution. Question is, do those inside the Trump administration know this? Pressure from above, pressure from below. A communist tactic. Remember, we also have cited, I believe it was Czechoslovakia. I want to say off the top of my head, 1948. Maybe someone can fact check me on that real quick. The revolution there. Known as the Velveted Glove Revolution. The Velveted Glove Revolution. There was a member of the House of Representatives that went onto the floor a few years after all this and said, this will become the communist model going forward for all nations. I've been telling you about that for many years. That's in my book, Marxianity. That's in my 2018 documentary, Sabotage. The Communist Revolution of Czechoslovakia. The Velveted Glove Revolution. Now, why was it called that? Because the strategy, which they carried out successfully, was to have a revolution without having a civil war internally. What they did is they stacked so many of their revolutionaries, communists, inside the various branches of government until they controlled so much of the government at the local, state, and national level that they could have a revolution without firing a shot. Sound familiar? Is that not what's happened in America? Last night again, I had Millie Weaver on. For what? How long now? I don't know. 3 years or more? We've been interviewing her and playing the clips where she was able to get into some of their Zoom meetings. And some of these people are saying what government agencies they work for. And they're all across the federal agencies, Lefts organizing resistance and how to stop the Trump administration from being successful. They're inside our government, but not just federal, local, and state as well. This is the, again, model of Czechoslovakia. Is the Trump administration aware of this? Is there nothing they can do to get these bureaucrats where they have nothing to do? Pass out crossword puzzles if you have to. Turn off their internet. Turn off their computers. Do not give these people access. If you cannot fire them because the courts will not give you the permission to fire them, then pass out crossword puzzles. But take away their computers, take away their internet. Do not give them information. Do not let them be involved in any form of government action that can be used as hostile actions. And yet that's what they're saying they're going to do. That they're bragging about it. The left is so much more organized than the right. The left, they know what they believe. They know why largely they believe it, at least their leadership does. They know what their in-game goal is, and they make disciples. They train people. They train them. They produce documents and literature, and they train them. How much training are we doing on the right? How much training are we doing even in our churches? I've been studying, as you know, the book of Daniel. We've been going through the book of Daniel on Sunday nights. Lesson 3 was last Sunday night. Daniel is a perfect example for us. Now, I think more than ever, and increasingly more so, it will be relevant. Isn't that wonderful? Wonderful. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of God stands forever and is always applicable, becoming more and more applicable as the days become more perilous. Here was Daniel in a hostile government, a believer in a hostile government. He had integrity under great pressure. And here we are. Some of you are living in a hostile state government, local government, some more than others in this audience. And Daniel, he was probably 15, 16, 17 years old. Some say anywhere from 15 to 20 years old. Many have theologians believe he was a teenager. We just go with the medium age. He was probably around 17. And to think that he and his 3 Hebrew friends could be dragged off into captivity from Judah into Babylon, and they excelled with incredible excellence. They clearly had godly parents. Their names, we know them, of course, as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and Daniel. Their Daniel's name and then the other Hebrew boys, their names actually reflect, all their names reflect a dependence, a respect, and a service to God. They must have had godly parents that trained them, and here they are taken into a hostile environment, and they excel. Are we doing that?
News is moving faster than ever, and so are we. Worldview Tube brings you 24/7 live stream coverage and now real-time alerts when it matters most. Once you have the Worldview Tube app installed, exit the app and navigate your way to Settings. In Settings, locate the tab labeled Notifications. Select the Notifications tab. Scroll down until you locate the Worldview Tube app icon. Select the tab, and here you can turn on and customize your notification experience for the Worldview Tube app. News doesn't wait, and neither should you. Turn on push notifications to stay informed. Every headline as it happens.
You're watching Worldview Tube, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, our website, worldviewradio.com. You want television, that's worldviewtube.com. Get to one page, you'll find them all. Mark your calendar now for Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th. That's when we'll do our, what is that? What is this one? I think the 23rd annual National Worldview Weekend. We're taking it to Milwaukee, Wisconsin this year, and the Waukesha Expo Center. We've already given our deposit, signed a contract. And of course, we're doing something we've never done before, and that's making it free. We've always charged because the cost of bringing people in to speak Friday night and Saturday, and all the speakers we bring in is so expensive. We've always charged a ticketed fee to cover all those costs. But we're going to raise the funds through our foundation, take a free will offering at the conference, and at least do our very best to break even. The renting the building alone for those 2 days will be over $10,000. But you be praying about that. And we're going to have a great conference in the Bible Belt of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And that, of course, again, Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th. We'd love to have you there. I want you to mark your calendar now, though. Circle the date, save the date. Hopefully this week, the guys, hint, can get it up where you guys can go ahead and register online, get it up online where you can register so that you can register and get your free seat. It will be free, but you will need to register so everyone has a seat. And remember our rally back in April, was full to capacity, people standing. We anticipate that again as well. But go ahead, save the date. Maybe by this week I can announce that you can start registering for that. We'll be very soon announcing all the speakers, all right? We're going to be joined here in a few minutes by Alex Newman. I want to talk to him about, is President Trump being set up or is he just being pragmatic? I don't know. Does he not understand the landscape? Is it, a collection of advisors that are even warring inside the White House and administration? We'll ask him a lot of those questions about what's been unfolding, not to mention the revolutionary tactics. Let me get back to those revolutionary tactics. I dealt with this also on Sunday night. Isn't it interesting, again, how Daniel, so much in the book of Daniel can apply to where we are right now in America and around the world. I mentioned before the break that Daniel and his 3 Hebrew friends, their names were changed. Their names were changed. The text clearly says that they were given new names. And reality is that this is part of, warfare. Identity warfare. Renaming is part of identity warfare. You might want to write that down. Renaming things is part of identity warfare. Can you relate to that, listening friend? What are Christians called? Extremist, intolerant, bigot, narrow-minded, hateful. If you're pro-life, you're not called pro-life. What are you called? Anti-choice, right? You're anti instead of pro. We were renamed during the Obama administration. Many people that believed in Bible prophecy and studied Bible prophecy are veterans, are people that are concerned about the economy or our borders. They were called potential domestic terrorists. Remember that, the Department of Homeland Security? And that continued under the Biden administration, did it not? Renaming conservatives, Christians, patriots, constitutionalists, pro-lifers, renaming is a part of identity warfare. It's the capturing of words and language. I've told you guys many times about Bella Dodd, the communist Bella Dodd. She flipped, she turned against communism, and she gave a speech in 1953 at Fordham University. Here's a quote by her. Here's what she said, quote, "There are 2 phases of life that communists take over. One is control over money, and 2 is control over words and language. They are fast taking over all the nice words, all the nice language of the Christian world, and they're taking them to themselves and giving them new connotation so that when they talk to the world, they're saying one thing which is understood by their followers, but to our ears, it sounds like the thing we should be saying," end quote. She then went on to say in a 1953 speech or testimony during a committee dealing with un-American activities, quote, "I was told by Gil Green, chairman of the party in New York State, that if ever communism came to America, it would not come under the socialist label or the communist label, but it would come under a label palatable to the American people," end quote. Alexander Trachtenberg, he spoke at the National Convention of Communist Parties at Madison Square Garden in 1944. He said, quote, "When we get ready to take the United States, we will not take it under the labels of communism. We'll not take it under the labels of socialism. These labels are unpleasant to the American people and have been speared too much. We will take the United States under the labels we have made very lovable. We will take it under liberalism, under progressivism, under democracy, but take it we will," end quote. Renaming, folks, is a part of identity warfare. Daniel and his 3 Hebrew friends were renamed. That was a part of identity warfare. But they were also renamed because brainwashing requires destroying a godly history. Brainwashing requires destroying a godly history. I talked about this on Sunday night. This is part of what was going on with Daniel. Look at how many of the things we've discussed in just the first chapter of Daniel chapter 1 in our Sunday night church service that applies to us today. They're tearing down American history. And I could spend the rest of the broadcast and a lot of time after that giving many examples of tearing down history. Because brainwashing requires destroying a godly history. We can talk about the Bible in the book of Psalm 77, Psalm 105, Psalm 143. These passages I could reference, and I did Sunday night, but I won't for the sake of time. I'll just tell you what they state. They tell us to remember the works of the Lord. Remember his marvelous works. Remember the days of what? Old. Remember history. Renaming is a part of identity warfare. Brainwashing requires destroying godly history. And then one other point I want you to understand is history anchors our identity. History anchors our identity. Many of you have a hobby, and that hobby is you're studying your ancestry, studying your family's history. And many families love to rightfully boast that I am a descendant of this general from the Revolutionary War. I am a descendant of this great general from World War I, or this great general from World War II. My family, I can trace it, some say, all the way back to the Mayflower. Why do people like doing that? Because, well, by and large part, history anchors our identity. Some families, their history is so horrific that they actually go to court and change their last name because they don't want to be identified with that family's history. But many of you have a wonderful godly history and heritage. All of us are standing on someone's shoulders, right? I mentioned on Sunday night, as I have you many times, hosting my first radio program in 1995, that of the Michael Reagan Show at Michael's request. Going into Chicago and plugging into affiliate and hosting his broadcast, which caused a man by the name of Vic Eliason of VCY America to hear this young man in 1995 on the radio and call up another Christian Broadcast Network executive, Dick Bott, and say, who is this young guy on the radio? Have you ever heard of him? He's hosting the Reagan Show. And Mr. Bott said, yeah, I just had breakfast with Brandon and his wife. Here's his phone number. We're all standing on someone's shoulder. This is part of our history. And our history anchors our identity. And don't you think that's exactly why Nebuchadnezzar wanted to stomp out even the names, the identity, the history of those young Hebrew boys? I found an article this week in my research from the New York Times. It's dated 1971. China transformed by elimination of four olds. The four olds. New York Times, 1971. It says, quote, one of the early objectives of the Cultural Revolution in China, which began in 1966 and goes on today, was to wipe out the four olds. Old things, old ideas, old customs, and old habits. The four olds had already suffered setbacks in the years of the communist rule preceding the Cultural Revolution. But the Maoist leadership tried to use the new revolutionary upsurge launched in 1966 to eliminate them completely. In fact, John Dewey, the father of progressive education, modern education in America, John Dewey, who was a humanist, signed one of the Humanist Manifestos. John Dewey, who studied the Karl Marx way of education overseas and then came back to teach this here in America in the early 30s. John Dewey, who brought the cultural Marxists to America around 1933 to infiltrate education and media. John Dewey, who helped to found the American Civil Liberties Union with a communist Baldwin. John Dewey said that the purpose of school, in his book, My Pedagogy, he said the purpose of school was not to teach children science or literature or history, nor history. Why don't they want to teach history? History anchors our identity. History allows us to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, to learn from our own mistakes as a people, as a nation. History allows us to admire those who took great courage, had the courage of their convictions. One thing to have convictions, another to have the courage to stand for them. And we are emboldened by people in our history that have been examples to us. Many of us look back with fondness on Ronald Reagan. Many of us look back with fondness maybe on another president or another historical figure. And we can take courage from their courage because it's contagious, as the old saying goes. Courage can be contagious. History is important for many reasons. And the Bible again tells us to look back to history, to remember the things the Lord has providentially done, from whence our help comes. So, my friends, I want you to understand, as we're studying through the book of Daniel on Sunday nights, there are so many lessons for us, so many lessons for us. Renaming is identity warfare. Brainwashing requires destroying godly history, and our history anchors our identity. The communists know this. The communists know this. And as we look at how Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who were teenagers, were able to thrive in a Babylonian culture. Are we living in a Babylonian culture today? From Genesis 10 and 11, the mother-son cult of pantheism, panentheism, Baal and Ashtaroth. Oh yes, we're going all the way back to Babylon again. Revelation 17 and 18 talks about it. We're really living in a Babylonian world and culture now, but they thrived in it. Why? Because they had a worldview foundation. Why is it the left is so organized and knows their worldview, but most on the right don't?
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed. All right, welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website worldviewradio.com, worldviewradio.com. Be sure to stay tuned for Crosstalk with Jim Schneider coming up at the top of the hour, 2 p.m. Central on the VCY America Radio Network, also available at vcy.org, vcy.org. Another point real quick for Sunday night, and you can watch the entire Sunday night Bible study at worldviewtube.com, was preparing your heart, wise preparation of the heart before resistance. Preparing your heart before the resistance. The word heart is used in the Bible with the word mind about 826 times, and it's interchangeable, heart and mind. It's where all of our thoughts and actions proceed from, the heart or the mind. And Daniel, he prepared his heart and committed from his heart not to defile himself. You know what's very interesting is, and I didn't know this until I was involved in my study the other night, that the word defile is used in the Bible several times. And whenever that word is used, it is used in conjunction with religion. Dr. Paul House, House, no relation, he writes, the word translated defiled occurs 9 other times in the Old Testament and always has religious connotations. Always has religious connotations. Daniel, he committed not to defile himself, committed from the heart. Wise resistance involves preparation from the heart first. And then one other final point before we go to Alex. Daniel and his friends, they had many things thrust upon them where they had just, and sometimes maybe moments to decide how they were going to respond. How they're going to respond. And I think one of the things that we will see as we go through the book of Daniel together is that faithfulness is not a moment in time, but a lifetime of moments. All of us have decisions that have to be made, oftentimes with just moments to spare. How will I respond? What will I say? What will I not say? What will I do? These decisions, many of these important decisions in our life are made in just a matter of moments. It can take years to build a good reputation and moments to destroy it. And faithfulness is not a moment in time, as I said, but a lifetime of moments. And you're going to see as we study the book of Daniel over and over, they're making fast decisions in some cases, and they don't hesitate. But they've already decided what it is they believe, why they believe it, and how they're going to respond. So they can make very quick decisions. They have a framework, a worldview from which they're drawing upon. I'm going to say it again. The left, you got to give them credit. They have their manuals, they have their videos, they have their courses, they have their Zoom meetings, they disciple people, they know what they believe. They're wrong, but they know what they believe. They know what their in-game goal is. Many of them are willing to die for it. And yet many on the right, well, you ask even the average person on Sunday morning, how do you know the Bible's true? They couldn't tell you. How do you know Jesus rose from the dead? They couldn't tell you. They can't even defend the most basics 101 of the Christian faith. That's the average Christian in America today. No wonder we're losing as a nation. How do we expect to win in this cultural stream when we're not being students? I was thinking today, as I was preparing for the broadcast, how thankful I am that I haven't wasted so much time. I don't know if you guys remember the guy that was in the Partridge Family. What was his name? Was his name Keith? The lead actor, David Cassidy. You guys remember David Cassidy from the Partridge Family, the oldest son? I think his name was, I think it was Keith in the show. I don't remember. But in real life, his name was Cassidy, David Cassidy. And it's reported that David struggled with a lot of different things in life, substance abuse and whatnot. And it's reported that when he died a few years ago, and whether the report is true or not, I don't know, but I read sources that were coming out and saying that they were in the room when he passed away, and that one of the last things he said was reported to be, so much wasted time. So much wasted time. I was thinking back today about my 56, soon to be 57 years. And I'm so thankful that I'm not going to get to the point where my life is nearing its completion and say, so much wasted time. How futile that must be. Now you can golf, and there's nothing wrong with leisure and golf. or taking trips and cruises and all that kind of thing. I just don't care to do that. I really enjoy studying, and I only have so many weeks and months and years on this earth. I only have so many weekends, and I am just so thankful that when I look back, and I was thinking today about all of the things I have learned because I've studied. But that required not going and just entertaining myself every weekend. Oh, it's the weekend. Let's go this, let's go that. Not that we didn't do things and have fun, but we disciplined ourselves to take the limited time we have to make sure we're doing things that pay dividends into the future. And I only at this age can understand so much what is happening because I didn't waste a lot of time. And yet, isn't that what we see in our culture and in the church today? So much wasted time. The other night, Sunday night, I went an hour and 10 minutes on the book of Daniel, went about 10 minutes over. Can you imagine if I was speaking at a church on a Sunday morning or Sunday night, went an hour and 10 minutes? A lot of the people would be dying. They got to get to the Golden Corral. They got to get to the fried chicken and black-eyed peas and purple whole peas. What's wrong with this man? I'm going to lose my spot, the buffet. Others say, oh, keep going. But this is the problem. We don't have a lot of Bereans and people that want to study who are redeeming the times. It's a culture that wants to just be entertained. And that's now in our cultural stream of our churches where it's about entertainment. And the left, they're grinding it out, producing literature and training manuals and Zoom classes and discipling their people. They're all wrong. Their worldview is 100% wrong. They're winning, folks. They are winning. We are losing. I'm thankful the gates of hell will not prevail against the real church. But we are suffering the consequences of a society that has not understood what it takes to maintain a republic. Joining me now is Alex Newman, a guy that's clearly committed to that. That's for sure. Alex, welcome to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I know I'm preaching to the choir to a lot of these folks and even you, but you want to comment on that before we get going here?
Yeah, I've always been astounded by that, the amount of time that people waste on things that are totally silly, that are not even fun, the doom scrolling and the social media, when you could be reading the Word of God, you could be spending time with your family, you could be glorifying the Lord in some way, studying history to try to make sense of what's happening. It's always been fascinating to me. And, I've got lots of children. I've got 6, and that's something that I try to instill in them. We've got a limited amount of hours on this planet before God calls us home, and let's use it wisely. And doom scrolling and social media and watching guys chase a piece of pigskin up and down a field. I know it could be fun and all that, but we really do need to be wise about how we use the time that God has granted us here on this earth. So I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, I knew you would. So I want to talk to you about what Trump is facing. Before you came on a while ago, I talked about the fact we have talked here so many years, pressure from above, pressure from below, the old communist tactic written about by John Stormer in his classic book, None Dare Call It Treason. Pressure from above, pressure from below. We're seeing that right now. We now have these encrypted apps. It looks like we have people from the local government, maybe even inside police departments in the Twin Cities. According to one report and a private investigator that I was reading today and put a phone call into today, we have now people saying you have people from the legislature reportedly on these encrypted apps. So people in government, pressure from above, and giving cover, judges not wanting to sign arrest warrants and other things for these activists. Pressure from above and then pressure from below, the street level, the communist tactic. They have set up Donald Trump, as I said earlier, so that he loses. If he carries out the enforcement, he looks too hard, too harsh. Now even Sean Hannity's reportedly out there saying, we need to pull back. We need to find another way. And then you have him, if he backs down, as he's done, it looks like to Walz, he now appears weak. And then the other side of his coalition is angry. They've got him in a spot where no matter what he does, they can box him in with the pressure from above, pressure from below, and the media. Can you comment on this?
Yeah, well, this is the exact tactic that they used to take over Czechoslovakia when the communists took over. They used that exact tactic, pressure from above and pressure from below. So they were coordinating the radicals in the streets and the riots and the protests, and then the pressure from above came from the members of parliament that they had that were sympathetic to the communist takeover, from the members of the elite media. It is the exact same tactic we are watching here. And Trump, just like you pointed out, is in a very difficult position. No matter what he does, he ends up looking like the bad guy. If he, cracks down on this and uses the Insurrection Act and goes in there and starts busting heads and making mass arrests, they say, look, see, we told you, Trump is an evil dictator. Look at this guy. He's, brutalizing these poor, peaceful protesters. Of course, we know that it's propaganda, but that's what they will say. If he does nothing, he looks weak, and he risks allowing this to get even further out of control. And that's an incredible danger as well. What happens once you have a situation where riots and protests turn out of control? All it takes is a few Secret Service guys, a few National Guard guys to put their weapons down and say, you know what, we're not defending the president anymore, and boom, it's over. The Republic is done. So this is a very difficult spot they've got him in. He's got good advisors. He's got smart people working with him who I think understand some of this. I know Tom Homan. I've had him on my show quite a few times before. He's a wise and capable individual, but they're going to have to be very careful not to walk into a trap on either side here, because it's very clear that these are the tactics that the communists and the revolutionaries and their globalist masters are using.
Yeah, and I want to ask you to come back. I mentioned yesterday that I felt that this guy they had, Greg Pavino or whatever his name was a bad choice. His appearance, his attitude, his dress was like he came from central casting, and he played right into the part of the narrative. And I thought it was very, very bad decision making to put that guy in there. And then carrying out these things during the broad daylight where all the cameras can just grab everything. The optics are horrible, so they have to reassess. I want to get your thoughts on that. And then Trevor Loudon said on my broadcast last night that he believes by this summer we'll see more violence than we've seen in America since the Civil War. Your thoughts on that? We'll be right back.
Introducing the Sentry Wellness System, the ultimate under-sink water treatment solution designed with you in mind. Say goodbye to harmful toxins and hello to water enriched with essential nutrients like calcium and magnesium. Enjoy the benefits of increased pH for on-demand alkalinity. All from a zero-waste system that fits seamlessly into your home. Installation is a breeze, taking just 15 minutes, so you can have clean, healthy, great-tasting water straight from your tap. Perfect for apartments, homes, rentals, and even RVs. Elevate your hydration and well-being with the Sentry Wellness System, because you deserve the best in every drop.
Sentry H2O. Tap into wellness.
You're watching Worldview 2, built on the 35 years of Worldview books, documentaries, research, high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio, website, worldviewradio.com. Alex Newman of libertysentinel.org, thelibertysentinel.org. Do I have that right? Thelibertysentinel.org, correct?
Nope, just Liberty Sentinel, SENTINEL.org.
People are asking, how is it down here in the Mid-South with our snowstorm, by the way? I'll tell you, one way it is traffic stopped. The ice is horrible. Everything is horrible. I-55 is dead standstill as you have a semi-truck right now stalled and stopped on the interstate. It's a mess here, folks. And this is considered the good area. Further south and then further north is just pathetic. So keep praying for us. Don't worry about Alex. I think he's in beautiful Florida, so he's doing just fine. Where I think they're having historic warm weather. But anyway, I digress. What do you make of this Greg Bavino guy? It was like he's at a central casting. This guy, the way he dressed, he seemed to play it up. His attitude, playing rock, scissors, paper in the parking lot with his agents and being very cavalier and overtly, I think, arrogant. This was not the right guy at all for the job. I said to my wife that why don't they send some older guy in there with a suit on, no uniform, with a suit on as a statesman, and then boom, here comes Tom Homan. I think that's a good idea. My friend Daniel Greenfield wrote an article. He thinks that's not the right idea. I think it is the right idea because of his expertise. I also happen to have one of my broadcast partners right next to him who's been with me for a few years, and he is now right next to him as an advisor. So, and I know that guy, and I trust a lot of what he's up to. So I think this is the right guy to give a shot at it. But do you agree that from the beginning, that even the guy leading this seemed to be a loose cannon from what I'm seeing?
Yeah, and they should have known that this was a very easy situation to exploit for sinister purposes, and maybe they did realize that. If they did, they didn't do, I think, a good enough job preparing for it and looking at the optics of this. Unfortunately, the left are very good at this, and we already know that they have sympathetic media that no matter what the Trump administration does, the fake news, the New York Times, the Washington Post, etc., are going to make it look like some sort of autocratic thing. So they really should have gone into this, I think, a little bit better prepared. But let's hope they can turn it around. I was pleased to see some of the news coming out yesterday. You know, I think there's a real desire among the communists to see this escalate into full-blown warfare. You know, we saw some of what James O'Keefe was going through, where these guys are organized in a professional manner, very much in that paramilitary style. They've got spotters. They've got, like you said, contacts within the government where they're somehow making use of license plate readers. They're looking for this to become a big conflict, and they need a few more martyrs, preferably older people or children or young people who look very innocent. And so, yeah, this is a very bad situation, but hopefully Tom can go in and sort this out a little bit, and hopefully, even just through the conservative media, podcast world, talk radio, you know, people can get the other side of the story and realize what a setup this is.
Well, Bill Malugin of Fox, he is reporting that Patrick J. Schultz, the Minnesota federal judge who's threatening to hold ICE Director Todd Lyons in contempt of court and is ordering him to appear in court on Friday, appears in a 2019 list of donors and volunteers for the Immigrant Law Center of Minnesota, an organization that provides free legal advice and representation for illegal immigrants. And of course, this guy was appointed by President Bush in 2006. So there you go. Pressure from above, pressure from below. Bingo, right here on the air. We just found it.
Yeah, and we will find many more people just like this all throughout the ranks, up and down, the state government, the local government, even the federal government, even people within the Trump administration. Brandon, you and I both know that there are people within the Trump administration, including some close to the president, who do not have Trump's agenda, make America great again, put America first. They do not have that in mind. They are there blocking access to the president. Information that he needs to hear is not reaching him. And I know this for certain. I know there's a lot of snakes in the grass, just like there was in the first term. And, you know, it seems like Trump is getting frustrated with some of this, rightfully so. He's losing his patience with some of this. He's got a lot of people around him. He'll give an order. He'll give some instructions, and they'll say, just like in Yes, Minister, oh, yes, Mr. President, right away, Mr. President. And 2 weeks later, hey, have you all done this? Oh, well, we're still working on it. You know, so he's got to deal with this. He's absolutely got to deal with this. You cannot afford to have people like that. And, of course, the problem you mentioned in the judiciary, this is going to have to be dealt with. We have completely lost control of the federal judiciary. It's exactly what Thomas Jefferson warned about, rule by an oligarchy. They do not respect the law. They do not respect the Constitution. And so unless and until Congress starts impeaching some of these judges, we're going to get more and more of this chaos.
Trevor Loudon said last night on my broadcast that if this doesn't stop, if President Trump doesn't use the Insurrection Act in the Twin Cities, doesn't control this, they don't start prosecuting people, getting rid of the foreign money that's in here, the organizations that are using this, these encrypted apps, the subversion, insurrection going on, that if he doesn't get this law and order back, that by this summer, he says we're going to see more violence than we've seen on our American soil since the Civil War, and they're going to use that going into the midterm. True or false?
I think it's a very realistic possibility. You and I have both been saying for a long time, Brandon, that they want a revolution, a violent uprising in this country. They've got millions of brainwashed, useful idiots ready to be the cannon fodder. The Rockefellers and the Soroses and the people funding this will laugh all the way to the bank. And by the way, make no mistake, right? These revolutionaries on the street, they are the useful idiots. They are the cannon fodder, but behind them there is massive money. So, I don't know that the Insurrection Act is the right way to go. I hope it doesn't get used, although it may become necessary. But I think one of the keys here is going to be to unravel the funding. And I know the president is working on this. I did an article for the Law Enforcement Intelligence Brief. This goes out to every police chief and sheriff in the country 3 years ago or 4 years ago. About the Sunrise Movement in Minneapolis. This is a revolutionary, violent leftist organization. Its primary source of funds, various Rockefeller foundations, and we have got to untangle this. This is organized. It's deliberate. The useful idiots we see on the street, they're the cannon fodder. The people behind the scenes don't care about them at all, but there will be bloodshed if this isn't taken care of.
Indeed it is. We're going to hold you here for a minute, get ready for our music to start and go away. But good news. Here's the Telegraph. Labor Party opens the door to Stalinist 15-minute cities across Britain. Even the Telegraph now has finally caught up with us, folks. Warning about the Stalinist 15-minute cities across Britain. I got to ask Alex about that. Hold right there, Alex. We are going to sign off here on the wonderful VCY America radio network and make way for Jim Schneider and Crosstalk, America's original Christian talk program since the 1970s on over 100 outlets nationwide. Coming up now. If you're not on one of their stations, you'll find it at vcy.org, vcy.org. May God save America. Take care. And we're back with Alex Newman of thelibertysentinel.org for a few more minutes before we sign off here. I want to go to this. The labor, he's gone. Oh, that's right. He was on the VCY side. All right. Well, here we go. The Telegraph. Labor opens door to Stalinist 15-minute cities across Britain. The Labor Party, of course, are your Fabian socialists. The Fabian socialists started the Labor Party. And the Labor Party, of course, and the Fabian socialists are your globalists. They want socialism by evolution, not revolution, socialism by evolution over time, slowly, like a turtle. A turtle used to be one of their logos, by the way. Oh, they're happy to work with the communist who doesn't want to go slow. But they're there waiting to offer up a solution after the crisis. Crisis solution. Remember James McGregor Burns, 1984, The Power to Lead? Only under a stupendous national economic crisis can we get the people to go where they otherwise would never go. And they'll use the Islamists and the Marxists to burn it down so they can build back better. They'll let them burn it down, and they'll be standing there saying, oh, we have a solution. And what is the solution going to be? Sadly, President Trump is even calling them freedom cities. No, it's not freedom. Europe is moving so fast on this. Even the Telegraph says this is Stalinist. The article says the Labour has approved a rollout of a Stalinist 15-minute cities across the UK. The Telegraph can reveal. Ministers have said they will allow councils to use driver's license databases to impose fines on drivers who fall foul of traffic filters, which restrict driving in certain areas. The controls on motorists, which are to be implemented for the first time in Oxford City later this year, have been described as perverse by motor groups. The 15-minute city is based on the idea that a person can access amenities within a quarter of an hour by walking or cycling. In some cases, this could result in traffic restrictions being brought in for drivers. The most high-profile example of such a plan is in Oxford, where the council put forward proposals to divide the city into 6 15-minute neighborhoods. Under the scheme, drivers would need a residence permit that allows 100 days of free travel per year through 6 different filters during operating hours. Meanwhile, a separate permit allows 25 days of free travel per year through 6 congestion charge locations. during charging hours. And after this, drivers face fines if they travel without the relevant permission. You know what this sounds like? Is some kind of ghetto. I guess the last time the ghetto was for the Jews, this time the ghettos are going to be for anyone they deem less than. You think the elite are going to abide by these rules, folks? Greg Smith, Shadow Transport Minister, said, quote, "This is the blueprint for a national rollout. Labor has given the green light for draconian councils like Oxfordshire to police how people live, to move and drive using cameras and fines backed by DVLA data. Oxford is the test case, but this is Labor's blueprint for the country." Duncan White, director of the Alliance of British Drivers, said 15-minute cities were an abomination. Within the 15-minute city, you will have to, in effect, apply for an internal passport to go and visit your granny. From a civil liberties perspective, it is nonsensical. From an operational point of view, it is bizarre. Jack Cousins, head of the roads policy at the AA, said, quote, "What local authorities sometimes struggle to remember is that the car remains and continues to remain the main method which people use to travel around the country. Cars coming into the town centers generate a huge amount of parking revenue for local authorities, and the local high street is dependent on strong, consistent footfall, and cars are probably the easiest way for people to get in and out of centers." You know, what's very interesting is I had on Tommy Robinson, who is organizing over there, Keeping Christ in Christmas. He is organizing against immigration. He speaks about the Islamists. They've arrested him like a dozen times, thrown him into solitary confinement for days and days and days on end. And he's talking about how they're trying to shut down the local pubs, as they call them. Now, I'm not a drinker. I have a very, very low tolerance for alcohol because I know what it can do to people and their families and their lives. So I'm not a guy that's pro alcohol, but I'm also freedom of conscience. But you also have to understand that in that part of the world, a pub is the center of so much of their community life. It's where they get together and they organize their different groups, whether they're playing football or whether they're organizing workers or whether they're organizing resistance to now this government that's over there. That's where their community surrounds around that, particularly for a lot of the men. And when you start shutting down these pubs or stopping people from getting there, you're now stopping their communication. And if you're blocking, if they can get on the internet, if they can send an email, if they can get on any kind of social media because their digital IDs block them because they're now considered a Christian or conservative, well, then they have to do it in person. Well, now they're shutting down the places where these people meet. This is all planned, folks, for isolation, divide and conquer. We'll keep covering it. Take care.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years.